The Springboks have made a major selection statement ahead of the second rugby's greatest rivalry test against the All Blacks, with Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu dropped to the bench after a difficult performance in the 33-16 defeat at Ellis Park, while Handre Pollard returns to the starting fly-half position in what could be a crucial response from Rassie Erasmus. In this video, we break down all the major changes to the Springboks squad, including the potential return of captain Siya Kolisi, the milestone appearances for Pieter-Steph du Toit and Ox Nche, and the return of veteran Deon Fourie to the matchday squad. Pieter-Steph du Toit will captain the Springboks for his 100th test appearance, marking an extraordinary achievement for one of South Africa's most consistent and influential forwards, while Ox Nche will also celebrate his 50th international cap. The front five that performed strongly in the opening test remains intact, with Wilco Louw, Ox Nche, Malcolm Marx, Eben Etzebeth and Ox Nche expected to provide the physical platform that Rassie Erasmus will need if the Springboks are to level the series. Behind them, Jasper Wiese retains the number 8 jersey, while the big selection question remains Siya Kolisi, who has been bracketed with Paul de Villiers as he continues his recovery from a hamstring injury. If Kolisi is unable to prove his fitness, Paul de Villiers will start again, but if the captain returns, his leadership and experience could provide a major boost to a Springboks team determined to respond after their disappointing opening performance. The biggest tactical change comes at fly-half, where Handre Pollard replaces Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu in the starting 15. Feinberg-Mngomezulu endured a difficult afternoon at Ellis Park, making several errors at important moments as the Springboks struggled to convert their attacking opportunities into points. His demotion does not necessarily represent a loss of faith from Rassie Erasmus. However, because the young fly-half remains on the bench and could still play a significant role in the second half. Instead, the decision appears designed to give Handre Pollard the responsibility of controlling the match, managing territory and putting pressure on the All Blacks with his experience in high-pressure test rugby. Pollard's return could also signal a more pragmatic approach from South Africa, particularly after they created numerous scoring opportunities in Johannesburg but repeatedly failed to finish them. The Springboks know they cannot afford the same mistakes in Cape Town, because another defeat would put Dave Rennie's All Blacks in a commanding position in the 4-test series. The backline also contains 2 injury-enforced changes, with Cheslin Kolbe and Grant Williams unavailable after suffering niggles in the opening test. Ethan Hooker comes into the starting 15 on the wing, while Cobus Reinach takes over at scrum half. Damian Willems remains at fullback, Kurt Learentz shifts to the right wing, and the midfield partnership of Jesse Kriel and Damien Dayende remains unchanged. The absence of Cheslin Kolbe is particularly significant because of his ability to create something from nothing, while losing Grant Williams removes another dangerous attacking option around the fringes. The Springboks will therefore need Cobus Reinach to provide quick service and accurate tactical kicking, while Handre Pollard takes control further out. There is also a fascinating story surrounding Deon Fourie, who returns to the Springboks matchday squad for the first time since the 2023 Rugby World Cup final. At 39 years old, Fourie remains a remarkable figure in South African rugby, and his experience could become extremely valuable in a test where pressure, physicality and composure will all be crucial. His return also adds another layer of depth to the Springboks bench as Rassie Erasmus looks for the right combination to challenge the All Blacks during the final quarter. The replacement group also includes Gerhard Steenkamp, Thomas du Toit, Le de Jager, Andre Esterhuizen, Cameron Haincom, Morn van den Berg and Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu, creating a bench that offers a mixture of experience, physical power and attacking ability. Andre Esterhuizen was one of the most explosive players for the Springboks in the opening test, and his presence again provides Rassie Erasmus with a powerful option when the game begins to open up. The selection changes are ultimately a response to a painful defeat, but Rassie Erasmus has made it clear that the Springboks have not abandoned their overall strategy. The biggest problem in Johannesburg was not necessarily the number of opportunities they created, but what they did with those opportunities. South Africa repeatedly entered dangerous areas but allowed mistakes to prevent them from turning pressure into points, while New Zealand were far more ruthless whenever they reached the Springboks 22. That contrast explains the 33-16 scoreline and is likely to be one of the biggest themes in Cape Town. Rassie Erasmus and his coaching staff will therefore be demanding greater accuracy from their players, especially in the attacking third of the field. The Springboks cannot afford to give Dave Rennie's All Blacks another opportunity to survive pressure and then punish them at the other end. Will Jordan, Jordie Barrett, Fabian Holland and the rest of the New Zealand side demonstrated at Ellis Park that they are capable of turning limited opportunities into decisive points. And the Springboks must therefore improve both their execution and their discipline. For Handre Pollard, this is an opportunity to bring control to a team that desperately needs it. Pollard has been involved in some of the biggest victories in Springboks history, including their successful Rugby World Cup campaigns, and his ability to remain calm under pressure could be decisive. The presence of Pieter-Steph du Toit beside him also gives the team an experienced leader who understands exactly what is required when facing the All Blacks. Reaching 100 tests is an incredible milestone, and Du Toit will want to celebrate it with a victory rather than another defeat. The same applies to Ox Nche, who reaches 50 test appearances and will once again face the challenge of the All Blacks front row. The scrum was one area where the Springboks enjoyed significant success in Johannesburg, and Ox Nche, Malcolm Marx and Wilco Louw will be expected to apply similar pressure in Cape Town. If the Springboks can dominate that area again while also improving their attacking execution, the second test could look very different. Meanwhile, Dave Rennie and the All Blacks will arrive in Cape Town with enormous confidence after their statement victory at Ellis Park. New Zealand have already shown that they can withstand pressure from the Springboks, exploit defensive mistakes and produce decisive moments through their attacking players. Rennie will also know that the hosts are likely to respond aggressively, meaning the All Blacks must be prepared for a completely different challenge. The second test is therefore shaping up as a fascinating tactical battle between Rassie Erasmus and Dave Rennie, with both coaches attempting to adjust after the opening match. For the Springboks, the message is simple: create the opportunities, but this time finish them. For the All Blacks, the objective is to maintain their composure, improve their scrum performance, and continue punishing mistakes. With Siya Kolisi potentially returning, Handre Pollard back at fly half, Pieter-Steph du Toit celebrating his 100th cap and Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu waiting on the bench, the Springboks have made several major changes without completely rebuilding their side. The second test at DHL Stadium in Cape Town promises to be another enormous confrontation, and with the All Blacks holding the early advantage in the series, the pressure is firmly on Rassie Erasmus and his players to respond. South Africa know that another defeat would leave them facing a mountain to climb, while victory would completely reopen the series and restore belief before the remaining tests. For Handre Pollard, Pieter-Steph du Toit, Siya Kolisi, Rassie Erasmus and the entire Springbok squad, this is much more than another test match. It is an opportunity to prove that the 33-16 defeat at Ellis Park was a setback rather than a sign of decline, and the response in Cape Town could define the next chapter of rugby's greatest rivalry. The Springboks now head into the second test against the All Blacks knowing that the margin for error has almost disappeared, because after the 33-16 defeat at Ellis Park, another loss would leave New Zealand with a huge advantage in the four-test rugby's greatest rivalry series. The latest selection from Rassie Erasmus therefore feels less like a simple reshuffle and more like a clear attempt to restore control, experience and composure to a team that created opportunities in Johannesburg but repeatedly failed to turn pressure into points. The most obvious change is at fly half, where Handre Pollard comes into the starting 15 and Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu moves to the bench. The decision comes after Feinberg-Mngomezulu endured a difficult afternoon against the All Blacks, with several mistakes arriving at crucial moments. But the selection of Pollard is not simply about punishing the youngster. It is about giving the Springboks a player with enormous experience in high-pressure test rugby and someone who can control territory, manage difficult situations, and remain calm when the scoreboard becomes tight. That could be particularly important in Cape Town, where the weather and atmosphere could produce a completely different contest from the one witnessed at Ellis Park. Rassie Erasmus has also left the door open for Siya Kolisi to return, with the captain included subject to proving his fitness during the week. If Kolisi is cleared, his return would immediately add leadership, breakdown expertise and emotional energy to a side that looked increasingly frustrated as the first test slipped away. If he does not pass the fitness test, Paul de Villiers is expected to continue in the back row either way. Pieter-Steph du Toit remains one of the central figures of the match because the veteran forward is set to make his 100th test appearance and will captain the Springboks for the occasion. Reaching a century of test caps is a remarkable achievement, and Du Toit will want his milestone to be remembered for a victory rather than another defeat. Beside him, Ox Nche is also reaching a major career landmark with his 50th test cap, giving the Springboks two forwards with a huge amount of experience and motivation. The continued selection of Ox Nche, Malcolm Marx and Wilco Louw is particularly significant because the South African scrum was one of the few areas where the hosts enjoyed clear dominance in the opening test. Ox Nche and Wilco Louw repeatedly caused problems for the All Blacks, and Rassie Erasmus will want to turn that superiority into actual scoreboard pressure this time. The lesson from Ellis Park was brutally simple. Dominating one area is not enough if the team cannot finish elsewhere. South Africa had territory, possession, and attacking opportunities, but New Zealand were more efficient when they reached dangerous positions. The All Blacks turned their chances into 5 tries, while the Springboks managed only 1, and that difference in finishing quality ultimately decided the contest.